I let my cousin use my phone. Now the cops are banging on my door. Hey man, can I borrow your phone? I need to let my girlfriend know my phone's dead and I'm at your place. Brian stood in my doorway holding his phone like proof. I was halfway through a work email and barely looked up. Yeah, sure. I unlocked it and handed it over. He'd crashed on my couch twice last month and we'd grown up together, so I didn't think twice about it. 30 minutes later, someone hammered on my door so hard I felt vibrations in the floor. I opened it to two officers with their hands near their belts, and the taller one asked if I lived here and if this was my phone number. I said yes to both, and he told me to step outside because they needed to ask me questions about threats sent from my device. I asked what threats, and the shorter officer said someone used my number to send messages to a guy named Felix Orozco, telling him to watch his back. Then Felix got jumped in the parking lot outside his job 15 minutes after the last text. I told them I didn't know anyone named Felix and asked why I would threaten a complete stranger. The taller officer looked at his partner with this weird expression like something finally clicked. He asked if anyone else had access to my phone today. I said my cousin borrowed it maybe 40 minutes ago, and both officers straightened up. The shorter one asked where Brian was now, and I realized I had no idea because he'd handed my phone back, said he had to run an errand, and left through the side door. The taller officer asked how long Brian stayed after using the phone. I said maybe 2 minutes tops. He asked for Brian's full name. I gave them everything I knew. They asked if Brian had any connection to Felix Orozco. I said I'd never heard that name. The shorter officer asked if Brian had an ex-girlfriend. I remembered him complaining last month about his ex dating some new guy who worked at a warehouse. I told them about the ex, and the taller officer nodded like I'd just confirmed exactly what he suspected. The shorter officer asked to see my phone. I unlocked it and handed it over. He scrolled through my messages and stopped on a thread I didn't recognize, then turned the screen toward me. The messages said things like, "You made a huge mistake, and watch yourself, and this isn't over." I said I didn't send those. The taller officer asked if I'd left my phone unattended. I said only when Brian had it. They asked if I had any idea where Brian might be. I said he told me he had an errand, but didn't say where. The shorter officer handed my phone back and said they'd be in touch. I went back inside trying to piece together what just happened. Brian borrowed my phone, sent threats to some guy I'd never met, and then disappeared right before that guy got attacked. My phone, my number, my address on file with the police. I called Brian 3 times and it went straight to voicemail. I texted him from my laptop and the message showed as delivered, but he didn't respond. I opened my phone and checked the thread with Felix's number. The messages were deleted from my main screen but still showed up in the hidden archive folder, which meant Brian knew how to cover his tracks but didn't realize I had automatic backups enabled. I screenshotted everything and sent it to myself on 3 different platforms. 2 hours later, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I answered, and the taller officer said they'd located Brian and taken him into custody. He said they found scratches on Brian's hands and a wallet belonging to Felix Orozco in Brian's car. Brian was being questioned about the assault. I asked if I was still being investigated. The officer said no. The timeline and evidence made it clear I wasn't involved. I hung up and stared at the wall. Brian used my phone to frame me for what happened to his ex's new boyfriend. He walked out of my apartment and went straight to Felix's job. If the police hadn't pieced it together fast enough, I would have been the one in custody. Full story on my channel below.